PSVR 2 is nearly here. With it only a week away at time of recording, many of us are excited to get our hands on the newest generation of VR headsets. The PSVR before it over the last 6-ish years has sold over 5 million units, which isn't that bad considering the need for a PS4, which of course limits its install base. But in recent years it's been criticised for its low resolution and its convoluted setup, both compared to other VR headsets. But without PSVR, we wouldn't have PSVR 2, would we? So for that at least, we should be thankful that PSVR exists, and for the games that it's offered us, before the next generation of VR headsets roll out. So, on that note, hello fellow gamers, let's experience PSVR one more time before it gets put out the pasture. Moss is up there as one of my most favourite of PSVR titles. You play an observer who's assisting Quill, that little mouse there, through various different puzzles, environments and enemies. It's an adventure game with beautiful graphics and excellent gameplay, easily one of the best VR titles around. Not to mention Quill is cute as a button. It's not a very long game, you'll finish it and its DLC in about 5 or 6 hours, but it's still a wonderful title to relive once in a while. There's also a sequel that's been out for nearly a year now, Moss Book 2, but I've held off getting that because I know it's being re-released for PSVR 2. I'm really looking forward to playing that sequel when the new headset arrives. Another 3D platform game is up next, and a PSVR exclusive no less. Based on the robot rescue minigame from Playroom VR, Astro Bot Rescue Mission has you controlling the adorable little robot across 5 different worlds in an attempt to rescue their friends. Each world is colourful and wonderfully designed, filled with lots of fun and quirky ideas that'll keep you engaged for hours. The game itself runs buttery smooth, and the controls are very simple as well. It's a whole lot of wholesome fun for any PSVR owner and definitely worth getting a hold of. It would be really nice to see more of this on PSVR's successor. If trippy visuals and awesome beats are what you're after, Rez Infinite has it in spades. Based on the Dreamcast and PS2 original from over 20 years ago, Rez Infinite pits you, a hacker, against an onslaught of viruses and firewalls in order to awaken an artificial intelligence at the heart of a worldwide network. It really is a feast for the senses, especially in virtual reality. I find it a lot easier to play in VR as well, as you can simply tilt your head to aim at the oncoming targets. It's not a long game with only 5 areas to play through and an open world-ish Area X to explore, but it's a great pickup for any VR aficionado. It's even coming to PSVR 2 on launch, though existing owners of the PS4 version will still need to fork out a tenner for the upgrade. There are other ways to get lost in a world of trippy colours and emotive music, and that's with Tetris. Now, everyone knows about Tetris, many of us experiencing it for the first time on the original Game Boy, but playing it in VR is more rewarding than you might imagine. Originally titled Tetris Effect on PS4, earning its Connected moniker when it spread out onto other platforms with multiplayer included, the classic game is given a graphical and musical makeover. Soothing beats play in your ears and match with every piece you place. Beautiful, colourful effects surround you as lines disappear from the play area. Every moment of each playthrough rewards you with a visual and auditory euphoria. It's not all chill though, as there are plenty of moments where it pushes the difficulty up a bit, but it's a title I'd highly recommend for anyone with a PSVR headset looking for a game they can truly get lost in for hours on end. For all of you gearheads out there, there's Gran Turismo Sport. Available on the game's launch, GT Sport's VR mode throws you behind the wheel of a car of your choosing and pits you against a CPU racer on one of over 30 different tracks. Now, since this is GT, the attention to detail is all there. Each car behaves and sounds differently, and you can really sense this in VR. You can perceive the different road surfaces on each track, and the inside of each car is immaculately detailed as well, further improving that immersion. Pairing PSVR with a steering wheel only heightens that immersion. If you have a steering wheel as well, you've no excuse not to use it here. Now, sure, it could have been done better. It's still got quite a soft image. There's only one-on-one races or time trials, and having to play in 2D to unlock a majority of the tracks in VR. But when you're in that race, nothing else matters besides reaching that finishing line. Yes, it's a little soft. Yes, there's a little pop-in. Yes, there's only one opponent. But this is still a lot of fun. Reliving GT Sport in VR again really has me excited for what PSVR 2 will do for GT7. If Gran Turismo isn't your thing, then maybe something with a bit of oomph is more up your street. Less than a year after its launch, WipEout Omega Collection received PSVR support through an online update. Every ship, every track, every mode, and every difficulty is available in VR, assuming you have the stomach for it. Its fast-paced and often explosive gameplay will leave a number of players somewhat disorientated, but it's definitely worth getting to grips with though, as WipEout in VR is absolutely stunning and thoroughly engaging. You'll barely even notice the soft edges through the PSVR headset either, as you're whizzing through each track at breakneck speed. At the moment, there seems to be no plans on porting this across to PSVR 2, so it remains a PS4/PSVR exclusive. It's a game I thoroughly recommend if you've already established your VR legs. No Man's Sky got VR support in its Beyond update in 2019, 3 years after the game's initial launch. While at the time it was a bit clunky and suffered from some very funky bugs, it's improved immensely over time. While today it's still plagued by the softness that comes with PSVR, it's still an amazing experience. The biggest drawback I found with No Man's Sky on PSVR was getting used to those move controllers. Some actions previously assigned to a simple button press required gestures from either one or both of your wands. It was really confusing coming back to this after quite some time away from it. But once I got used to them again, I remembered why I was so fond of the whole No Man's Sky VR experience. Exploring practically a limitless number of systems and planets while fully immersed in everything is astounding. When the PS5 version released, it was disappointing that it didn't bring along the PSVR support, so we had to choose between either fully immersive VR or jaw-dropping 4K visuals. You can imagine how that went. If the game's use of PSVR is anything to go by, No Man's Sky on PSVR 2 is going to be a must-play experience and I'll strongly recommend it. But be warned, that will come with quite a steep learning curve. One PSVR title that seemed to just come out of the blue for me was Doom 3 VR Edition. While it had been possible to play this in VR on a PC for some time, seeing this release officially on another VR platform was a welcome sight. While the game is criticised for its scaling being a bit off and gameplay in general being a bit clunky, I, however, enjoyed playing through this classic title once again with an entirely new perspective. Plus, I wanted an excuse to get that aim controller out. Though that begs the question, is PSVR 2 going to get an equivalent of this? Still, having played the original on PC back in the mid-noughties, it's amazing how far the same game has progressed over the years. And it's even creepier now in VR. Doom 3 isn't the only game that's been ported to every platform under the sun, only to get a VR adaptation as well. Skyrim naturally got the same treatment. Now, as much fun as Skyrim is in general, playing it in VR is something entirely different. While again, the game does suffer from the typical PSVR blurriness, and it sadly doesn't support any mods, Skyrim in VR is still absolutely magnificent. Having full control over where to look and full reign with both hands when using the move controllers means you can play it very differently. You even have to do the real-life motions to pull on your bow and aim when firing arrows. Even small changes like that can really alter the experience. Much like No Man's Sky, the controls in Skyrim with those move controllers were very confusing. It took quite some time to get to grips with them, but once you do, oh boy, you are in for a treat. It would be great to see Skyrim on PSVR 2, and yes, that would mean another release. However, since Microsoft now owns Bethesda, that severely reduces the chances of Skyrim getting the same VR treatment on PS5, though we can only hope. I would strongly recommend this for anyone with PSVR, even if you've already played the OG game to death. Well, unless you suffer from arachnophobia, that is. You guys better give this a wide berth. Next up, we're going to jump back to the 16-bit era, with a title that's going to trigger every single American who's watching right now. Mega Drive Classics gives you access to over 50 titles from Sega's early 90s juggernaut. What I love about this game is its presentation, which is clearly done for ultimate nostalgia. It places you inside your own childlike bedroom, which is set up in a way that many of us would have had back then. You know, if you're old enough to remember the reunification of Germany, that is. While it's true this came out for practically every platform in 2018, it was only PC and PS4 players who could experience this entirely in VR. The game places you on the floor, square in front of your CRT TV, with your Mega Drive Classics inches from your face. You can see the scan lines and the curve of the TV right before your eyes, and this is how many of us would have played these classics back then. We would, of course, have been told by our parents not to sit so close to the TV, else we'll get square eyes. Well, tough. I'm an adult now, I'll do what I want. If you're like me and you have your pick of console platforms when it comes to games, I'd recommend getting Mega Drive Classics on PS4 over any other, purely because of its VR mode. Iron Man VR was a PSVR exclusive for a couple of years. That was until it was ported to the MetaQuest recently. Still, for some time, PSVR owners were able to enjoy keeping Iron Man all to themselves, and I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed it. Its use of the motion controls that come with using those Move controllers was very well implemented, and all of it together really made you feel like Iron Man. While it's true that a title like this would likely appeal more to anyone who's a fan of the Marvel Universe, cinematic or otherwise, it's still a great game to try out if you've got yourself some steady VR legs. A title that I've never tried before until now, Star Wars Squadrons places you in the cockpits of X-Wings and TIE Fighters, pitting you in outer space dogfights. It's the kind of Star Wars game that many fans have been crying out for. All of the controls are at your fingertips and you're free to look and fly around, all while avoiding enemy gunfire. While not a PSVR exclusive, it works extremely well with Sony's first VR headset. It's really cheap to pick up on PS4 as well compared to on Steam, and PS Plus members will have gotten this game for free and all. Sadly, we're not going to see this on PSVR 2 as Motive Studio haven't worked on it since its release, but it does make me wonder if another Star Wars dogfighting title could X-wing its way over to PSVR 2. That'd be sweet. Lastly, I wanted to check out Minecraft again. These days we are spoiled with the different ways in which we can play this game. In 4K, portably, with ray tracing, and VR is no exception either. While deep into the COVID lockdowns in 2020, Mojang added VR support to the PS4 version, much to my delight. After getting shocked at just how big every block is and how vast my world suddenly became, I soon found the Minecraft VR experience to be utterly enthralling. It's much the same trying it out again today. Since Minecraft is already a simply textured game, we lose nothing from bringing the experience over to PSVR. Once you familiarise yourself with the slight change in the controls, it feels very intuitive. It would be nice if Mojang brought out PSVR 2 support, but given how slow they've been to get native Series X and PS5 versions out, I don't think that'll be happening anytime soon. So for all of you still sporting the original PSVR headset, it's easy to recommend Minecraft to you. It's a lot of fun, even more so when playing with friends in an online realm. So that was a small selection of games you can play on PSVR today, and some of them are even getting updated versions on PSVR 2. Now, not all of these were exclusives, mind, but it's still great to see Sony throw their hat into a ring that was otherwise mostly occupied by Oculus and HTC at the time. I had a lot of fun playing through all of these VR titles again, and you know, as much flack as the PSVR gets these days, to have that much fun with it right now, I can only imagine what it's like to jump in on PSVR 2. So thank you, Sony, for giving us another option in the world of VR, and I look forward to checking out its successor very soon. But what have your experiences been like with PSVR, and are you getting the PSVR 2? Let everyone know down below in the comments. And hey, while you're down there, a like is always appreciated if you enjoyed the video, and there's always that subscribe button if you want to hear my initial thoughts on the PSVR 2. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.